Barry, welcome to the Success or Excuses podcast. Really appreciate you coming along. So, you want to give us a wee quick introduction?
Hi, no, thanks for having us, James, first and foremost. My name's Barry Jolly. I'm the founder of Jolly Media Marketing, so digital marketing business specialising in lead generation.
Bit more specifically?
In the renewables field,
Yes.
right? So yeah, that's the business I founded. That's where most of my attention goes to, and my sort of history before I got into business for myself. I actually worked in insurance as
You're an engineer, but I know.
Well, I'm going to put an important word before that.
Right.
A field engineer.
Well, I know you studied it.
I did. So I never actually made it into the engineering floor, if you know what I mean. So I suppose I just touching on my academic side of things. I was a fairly bright student, to be fair. Didn't study an hour in my life, and ultimately that got me through high school, got me through primary school, of course, and then got me all the way through about 3 years of university before I realised, shit, I can't get any further. So I left university with a diploma in engineering, and I never ever went after engineering. That was me. Yeah. That was me. My career in the corporate world, I actually got into insurance. Not really much of a segue for engineering to insurance. Yeah. I worked with a brilliant company in the insurance sector called NFU Mutual.
Yeah.
And sort of progressed my career through there, ended up being a consultant. So I used to go around the full of the UK, dealing with franchise owners, consulting them on CRM, process and sales. At that time, I started Jolly Media Marketing. Right. So we bit of a zigzag there, I would say. I wasn't very switched on academically. I'm a lot better now as I'm a bit older. But yeah, started my business as I was a consultant in that space and left my corporate career behind, and here I am now.
Amazing. So tell me about the early years. I mean, what was the drive to did you just see a gap in the market, or you thought I can do this for myself? What was that? Because a lot of people, as you probably well know, because I know you run a podcast, risking it all, right?
I do.
So people risk it all.
Yeah.
But it's a rare breed.
Yeah.
Right? Innit? I mean, entrepreneur is a rare breed. You've got to be daft sometimes. So what was it, the spark? What was the, I can do this? What was that?
Aye, it's a good question. So I would be barefaced lying if I said to you now that I was an early onset entrepreneur. I wasn't one of these guys that was like doing deals in high school in the playground and all that. That wasn't me, right? I always say,
I was that one.
That's me, like, that's your style, innit? I don't know. I always say, like, up until probably I was in my mid-20s, I just kind of floated through life and just didn't.
Be floating.
I just done what I had to do, and but my inspiration, like, growing up, right? So my dad was an engineer. I'm a failed engineer, so sorry, Dad, I didn't cut it. But he worked his way up for an apprentice in the old steelworks. You may remember that.
Yeah.
And
Ravenscraig.
Yeah. And he never stepped foot in a university in his life, and he went for apprentice in Ravenscraig to working with one of the biggest oil companies in the world, all over the world. And he had a fantastic career. And I just remember growing up, him and my mum were so hard working.
Your old man sounds like my background as well. It happened with me
very
as well.
Similar, very similar. And I just remember those were a real inspiration to me. My mum and my dad, they were just hard working, and I had a brilliant platform in life growing up. They couldn't ask for anything else. And then the other big inspiration I had was my uncle Daniel. Right, so how Jolly Media Marketing came about. And it wasn't me that came up with this grand plan, right? So my Uncle Dan was an entrepreneur. He worked in Saudi for about 20 years in the automotive industry. Yep. Came back for there, started an automotive business for spare parts and stuff. And then he was just always trying to start other businesses. He was one of the guys, right? I just loved him to bits. He was, he'd come with an idea, he'd come with this idea. And one day he came to me with an idea. So he said, look, I've seen this thing. It's really interesting. I think you would be brilliant at it, Barry. I was like, right, okay. So bear in mind, I'm in insurance at the moment and a failed engineer. So God knows how he came to this conclusion, but he was right at the end of the day. So he said, look, I'm going to take you down to London. I'm going to take you to a marketing conference. It was actually an affiliate marketing, which is like, sell other people's products and stuff. And he took me and his son Chris, so my cousin. went down to this conference. That was in 2018. God, that's quite long ago now when I think about it. And
7 years ago.
Aye, I know, Jesus. And what happened then is we went to this conference and we learned about generating traffic and marketing and building sales funnels. And I can mind just sitting there, just taking all this in. And it was one of the gigs that was quite over the top where, people come up with big checks and all that. You know, it's easily to get influenced by that. But I've always been technically minded. So I was
except you were a field engineer.
Apart from that. I was good
I had to get that one.
I know. I was good at doing it. I just couldn't actually get my arse out of bed to go and do it.
That's fair enough.
So I was all over all the marketing data, funnels, and on the way back for that trip, we launched a business.
Wow.
Straight away, like
I can do this.
Let's go and do it. Let's do it. And I just immersed myself in learning it. So it's just one of the light bulb moments. The minute it was put in front of me, I just instantly fell in love with it. And that was us for there onwards.
It's amazing how things like that just fall in your lap, innit? You don't know why, you know how, it just happens. Definitely. So let's talk about the early years. So we're 7 years in. So 7 years ago you set up the company. So what about the early years? What was that like?
So our introduction into marketing is nothing like what we're doing now, right? So what that event in London was about being an affiliate to sell someone else's coaching programs, right? Now, I would say similar to yours, but it's no similar to yours, and I'll get on to why, right? Because it didn't quite work out for us. Right. So my uncle was the reputable businessman, and he was going to be the person that we put at the front of selling the products, and I would do all the marketing and stuff in the background, right? So the program was called MOB, it was a coaching thing. So what was
it called, sorry?
MOBE,
MOBE,
right? So anyone look it up and you'll see what I get onto next, right? So it's actually quite funny, but it's quite bad what happened, right? So what happened is we immersed ourselves in this program. I learned all the marketing of it. So for that first year, we didn't incorporate Jolly Media Marketing because we just used my uncle as the figurehead, really. We made...
You were learning your trade.
I was learning my trade. So in the background, I was sitting, creating marketing campaigns all over the place and websites and all that stuff. And what we done is we actually made quite a lot of money in that program. 6 figures plus in commissions. And then one day, announcement came out, the program's closed. And we're like, right, what's going on here? And it turned out that the man who ran it, the founder of it, was a fraudster. So he get invited.
There's a few of them about in those days, though.
Yeah, there was.
There was a few of them. A lot of Americans came out on that as well.
So this guy was actually an Australian guy,
right?
But he was staying over in America. And overnight, we looked at our commissions due, and they went for sizable money to zero, and that was it. First attempt at marketing.
Door is closed.
Down this morning. It was a disaster, right? And it was actually quite hard because we'd built a relationship with people that would sell the course to, and we had to go around and say, look, and they weren't cheap. We had to go around and say, look, this is nonsense. The one thing that the course did give us, and we obviously bought the course first of all, which is why we're an affiliate. You buy it, you sell it.
Yeah.
But it did teach you fundamentals about marketing.
Yeah.
So although we lost all our money, I actually think without that course, I wouldn't be where I'm now.
So no, it was an expensive lesson.
Yes. Very much. So as you can see, we do not do affiliate marketing anymore.
Absolutely.
We'll never go near it again. And that's why I said that course is definitely different to yours, because I know yours are really good. So what we done at that point, right, I remember vividly sitting with my uncle, and you're sitting there, your head's doing a wee bit, and we had a conversation. We're like, right, what's the good things that have happened? Because my uncle, his personality, James, was nothing was negative. Everything was he was the most overwhelmingly positive person.
Entrepreneurial mindset, that's exactly what that is.
Oh, it was great, honestly. See, being round about him, he was always just so happy and just...
sees opportunities when everybody sees challenges and problems.
Exactly. So he helped pick everybody up, and we said, well, look, we know how to market. We're building up this skill set, so why don't we just market for other people? Jolly Media Marketing was born then. That was it. Aye.
And how did it first start then? Where did you first, what was it? Because you must have thought, who are we going to support? Who are we going to target? What was that like?
So that one was quite easy, right? And I always say to people, I feel very fortunate to have the influence I've had run about me. So I talk about my father, right?
Yeah.
Great influence. My uncle, great influence, right? So my uncle, who was always starting businesses all over the place, he was my first client.
Right.
So I fell into my first client because he was there. He said, look, I'll pay you to do it. It's like, no bother. So made peanuts, don't get me wrong, but that was my first ever client.
Yeah.
He led to a referral leads to a referral. Next thing you know, I've got 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And that was probably for the first 2 or 3 years of Jolly, well, probably 2 years in particular, was me going all around the UK as a consultant, checking into hotels, firing up my laptop and working on my clients.
What was it, a specific sector, or was it just anybody?
At the start, and I think this happens with marketers. So I feel quite fortunate this happened because I would work with anybody that gave me the chance.
Yep.
And I think there's a good place for that. Like I wouldn't say to people go and pay over the odds for working with a new marketer in the industry. Pay them what you think they're worth, but give them a chance as well. So people gave me a chance at the start. I didn't charge a lot of money, but that ultimately gave me the confidence to keep going. And my uncle wasn't involved in the business as a technician or anything like that. He wasn't doing anything. He was just my mentor on the side.
Yeah, wow.
And he just kept me right, and all the stuff that you need to do in business at the start, like accounting and
the things
invoices,
that you really should do, and a lot of people don't.
Invoices, all that stuff. How much should I charge and all that? Like he helped me with that, which was good. So
that's brilliant.
and that was what the early part of Jolly Media was like. Made a few mistakes as we always do, made a few good ones, and ultimately during that period, I started working with my first renewables client.
Right. Okay. So this is how it is. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So he was a referral. He knew the family and stuff. That was probably about 2021, and ultimately, I'm not going to lie and say we had this big grand vision. We're like renewables, green, save the planet. We're going to help,
but you never do though.
No.
That comes next, doesn't it? You get an idea, you get a client, you get a customer, you think, oh, I could make this work.
Aye.
And then the vision comes.
Exactly. So I wasn't sitting like targeting renewables people. Basically, I'd done bathrooms, kitchens, all these other things.
Yeah.
Got my first renewable client around about end of 2021, and then just realised, holy shit, I'm actually really good at this. And then from that point onwards, we were renewables.
Wow.
So one of the things I think that's worked quite well for me in business so far is I don't really take too long to make a decision. So like, we founded that affiliate marketing program in the way up the road for London.
Right.
We incorporated the business Jolly Media Marketing. The day after, we lost all that money.
Yeah.
I don't sit on things very long.
If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it.
I'm going to do it. And over the years, I've learned to make the same quick decision on not doing things as well.
Yep.
Because you do need to decide between them.
It's just as important to say no.
Aye.
Isn't it?
I'm getting better at that, to be fair.
It's just as important.
But nowadays, if I see something in front of me and I think that's a good opportunity, I go after it straight away. And that's what I've done with the renewable stuff. That client is still with us.
So I want to go back to marketing, right? Because marketing is a tough gig, right?
Yeah.
Now, my business relies on marketing.
Yeah.
I don't have a good marketing. I don't have sales. I don't have a business. Plain and simple. Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand how important marketing really is, right? Because I always think, see, if you don't have a strategy and you don't have a plan for your marketing, you're going to go through these massive peaks and troughs with sales all the time. Oh, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off. So it's really important. So I always find that it's an art, right? It's finding a person or a company that gets you.
Yeah.
That gets your industry, that gets your voice is really difficult. How are you able to do that? Is it because you live and breathe the kind of solar and the renewables? Is that?
Aye. So like how I really try and drive us as a marketing agency and how we want to try and treat people is like our core principle is always just being transparent, being proactive, and being collaborative. So where I think people struggle with marketing is we call them agency hoppers, right? Yep. So sign up with an agency, it guarantees them 100 grand in 6 weeks.
Yep.
Doesn't happen. They go to the next one, we'll guarantee you 75 grand in 4 weeks.
Yep.
We're not that type of marketing business, you know.
But there's loads of people out there. I mean, I've got personal experiences of big companies, right, Barry? Big companies, like big boys. And I've been spending thousands and thousands of pounds.
Yeah.
And they've destroyed my marketing.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to say they lie, right? but they fucking lie, right? They lie. I won't tell the company's name, right? I need to tell this story, right? I spent 4 hours, right, building we'll call it a marketing portfolio of ideal clients and customers and recommendations and everything, right, for this particular marketing company. I spent 4 hours, signed up with them, paid initial investment, very first set of ads came out, and I'm like, that's ChatGPT. Like, that's not my voice. Like, that's not my ideal client. Where are they getting this information? Meeting. Like, what is this? That's not my voice. That's not my company. Where are you getting this? But that's what works for our companies. Are you any other leadership companies and coaching companies? No. That's not our voice. And I don't want you using ChatGPT for my ads because there's Z's and all that in it.
Aye.
People can see it. If I want, I could do that myself. I don't need you.
Yeah.
I've got a marketing team. I'm bringing you in because you're experts. And they destroyed my marketing. Yeah. But this was November, December, and January. I had to fire them. Yeah. Didn't even get the full 3 months because they were destroying my marketing. Right. Destroying it. So it's hard for a business owner to really trust a marketing company.
It is, and it's a challenge we need to overcome daily. Mm-hmm. And I'd be lying again if I said that every marketing campaign we've ever touched in 6 years has worked a treat. Mm-hmm. But for the times that it doesn't work, we definitely work our socks off with the client to get it working. Mm-hmm. You know, so I think I would say the things it's taken us out on a wee bit of a journey to get here, right? Mm-hmm. So at the start, you know, I was the marketer. You know, now we've got a team of 5. Yeah. So we're in a different sphere. But when you're solely reliant on one person, there's no consistency. There's no strategy as a marketing business. You know, it's a lot of the times you're just hanging on to deliver. Absolutely. Rather than taking the time to actually understand what you're trying to deliver. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where some marketing companies will fall down, and you can tell by just looking at their roster of staff, right? See, if you see a marketing company with 8 sales reps and 3 marketers,
it's a problem.
You might run into some problems. Now, if you see a company that's, you know, either level on that resource or a bit more on the marketing side, you can see where their priorities lie. Absolutely. You know, and that's the way I want to build my business. Yeah. You know, I want to make sure that we're very supportive and very understanding. But we also have the other challenge of we know what works in renewables, but we also need to find something different for every company we work with to make them different. Aye. You know, so the designs might look fairly similar in the eye, but there has to be something that we unearth for the client to make them different. It's got to be in it. It's absolutely critical. And because marketing is a skill set. Yeah. Yeah, it's an absolute skill. Because if you've not got a good marketing strategy, you've not got a good campaign, you've not got a good strong message, a good strong brand. I mean, they all come. Everything's on one go. You're swiped. Yeah. Right? You're swiped. You've got to catch them. And sometimes I sometimes feel as a business owner, I don't do my own marketing any longer, but I still feel as a business owner that sometimes I feel like you're just throwing everything to see what sticks. And I'm having to, even with the team now, kind of roll that back and go, right, okay, we don't need to throw everything to see what sticks. These are the stuff that works for us. This is the stuff that's, you know, we've moved away from throwing everything at the wall to make a kind of thought leadership type of, you know, let's become the experts. Yeah. Because I think we are the best in the planet. Let's become the best in the planet. Yeah. Let's make sure that's the message we're putting out rather than just stuff. Scattergun approach. And I think where people maybe tie their selling knots with marketing is sometimes they don't allow the time to pass to understand the stuff that works. Right. So, you know, our business, we get people in for a month in a trial, right? And we say, look, come in, experience the service, experience collaborating. After that, you can work with us for 3 months. And we find that's a great idea, by the way. We find that taking away that initial fear, isn't it? And since we've introduced that, we've not had anybody no go by the month, because what we do is we set the expectations really clear. We say, look, this first month, right, it takes average sales cycle in the renewables field is 6 weeks, right? If you get a sale in the first month, then great, but we need to be trending in the right way in the first month. We don't come in and say, like, your sales team are going to be belting out sales left, right and centre in the first month, because we know that doesn't happen. No. You know, what we try and do is we just try and make sure they know that they understand what we're doing. We're here to help. We provide them with a system to manage leads that's got automations and all the fun stuff in it. That's something we bolted onto our service in time. And I think we marketing and it's all about building trust. You know,
Absolutely.
I've had clients stay with us for 2-3 months longer than they would in any normal case because we've explained why the campaign isn't working and we've explained what we're going to do to try and fix it. You know, and a lot of the times when marketing isn't working, it's the easiest thing in the world to colour up in a wee shell and hide.
Aye.
But I've always just taken that chance of just saying, look, if it's not working, get them on the phone and tell why. You know, and I think maybe people do surf around agencies and stuff because they maybe do get left in the cold.
Aye. Well, this my experience. I mean, I've 8 years ago I started my business. So I've been through every kind of trying to do it all myself.
Yeah.
Realising I'm not very good at it. You know, but being fairly successful, bringing in companies and being a bit more successful. But you always. It's almost like you're growing into understanding that marketing process and that marketing. And this is another thing that I find with marketing companies, not necessarily your company, of course, but with a lot of marketing companies is they become complacent.
Yes.
You ever heard that for other people?
Yeah.
They become complacent. They get you. They start to see results. You're sitting as an owner going, you dancer. We're 8 weeks in. Our CPL's down. You know, it's ideal clients. This is great. And then I let them do their thing. And then 2 months later, the CPL starts to creep up.
Yeah.
And then the leads start to dry out. And I'm phoning them and saying, like, what
What's
are we doing here?
Yeah,
Why? What's happening? Oh, aye, well, we're going to. No.
Yeah.
I'm a business owner. I'm running a £2 million business. I don't need to be worrying about whether you're doing my market or not.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
That's hard. So how do you overcome that?
So we do a couple of things. One of them's probably in the last 6 months we've introduced, and I think it's really helped with that. So the first thing we do is we have a weekly checkpoint where everybody that we work with has a WhatsApp group, and we literally contact them in it every week.
Yep.
All right. So we keep close to them that way. We have a monthly review call as a minimum. So you'll never give 2-3 months with us without actually going through all the data. The other thing that we've introduced, which I think has really helped with that, and it is easy to get complacent, especially when you're busy, by the way, but we automate reporting to every client every week.
Aye, that's critical, man.
Every
For
week.
sure.
So every week, James, you're sitting there, you get a wee report through in your inbox. It tells you how many leads you've got, how much they cost, where they're coming from. So we've got this wee snazzy thing that pulls all the ads for Facebook and shows you what ads are generating what.
Yeah.
But the most important part of this reporting, right, is we also integrate our CRM with it, so you can see, right, okay, great, I've had 100 leads, but how many have went to survey? How many have went to quote? How many have went to install? As a marketing agency, I'm really big on, vast majority of people will say, how much is it costing me for a lead, right? Because everybody wants to know that.
Aye.
I try and say, look, we generate leads, but we generate surveys, we generate pitches. So I'm much more concerned or more focused on how much is it costing you to get in front of a customer. And that, when we changed our mindset with that, that's where
basically cost per acquisition.
Cost
to
per
make
acquisition.
that person to sit and have that meeting.
Exactly.
Aye.
So if you focus solely on leads, you wrap yourself in circles, because you could get 100 leads at a £10 a pop and you could get one sale, or you could get 2 leads at £50 a pop and get 2 sales.
Aye.
Would you rather?
2 sales all day long.
Exactly. So,
and I always say that. You want your CPL to be under. I mean, your CPL it's 23 to 36 quid. I mean, sometimes it's 200 quid. I mean, frighten the life out of you. But it always kind of sits about there, and I'm comfortable with that, because I know that most of the time, not all of the time, because you can't control Facebook, particularly Facebook. Right. Same as you can with LinkedIn. Obviously a lot more expensive, but you can't control who clicks in your ad, because Facebook have changed their algorithms and their way of doing things so much.
If I had any here, it'd have been long gone with that. You know, like it's hard, and that's where you might find, see, like your experience in past about results tailing off, is you need to keep your finger in the pulse with these platforms, because it could be a case you go in one day and it's changed. You know, it's an ongoing challenge.
They actually did that about a year ago.
Aye.
They changed it certain. So let's say we are looking for people in construction. For me, for example, construction, and they took the construction away altogether. And you can, and I'm like, how am I going to? How's this going to work for me? It was mental.
Aye, it's forever changing.
Listen, when I started, right, Facebook ads, we were £1.50, £2 a lead. 150, £2 a lead.
I was the same.
And I was getting hundreds of them a week.
The old Facebook, I call it. The old Facebook. It's like I'm an old guy reminiscing when I'm a younger days in it. The old Facebook.
When I was a lad.
I know. But before all the data protection tightened up, you know, the old Facebook was magic. You know, you could plug in whatever you wanted and off you went. That's probably why I kept my marketing business at the start, because I was flying, you know. But also I think the reason we're in this space now, James, is like any business really, you go on a journey. So when I started as a marketer, my focus was I need to get as many leads as humanly possible, and that's it. I didn't have a CRM, I didn't have the feedback loop to see what happened with the leads. I just said, right, if I can get hundreds of leads, I'll be fine. And I've realised through time that the most important thing is how many sales.
Absolutely. Don't sell, you don't have a business.
You don't sell, you could be the best lead generator in the world, but if none of them convert, what's the point?
Absolutely. And it's critical.
It is.
It's absolutely critical. I mean, there's no two ways about it. Any business owner, particularly in the trades and things like that, they need to take marketing seriously. I mean, they really, really need to take marketing seriously. I mean, you know, I work with hundreds of construction companies, a lot of small businesses, and the one thing that they generally complain about is new business. Right? Generating that new business. And they're saying, I know, but I spent £500 on Facebook 2 months ago. You need to be spending a percentage of your turnover every single month. If you want to grow business, because people, they're not ready to buy when they see your first ad or the second ad or third ad. It's when they're ready to buy, you want them to see your ad. That's when you want them to see your ad for the kitchen or your ad for the extension. And if you're only putting that out every now and again, once in a blue moon, the chances are you're missing a huge opportunity of people.
And on that point, right, I'll try not to get too deep into the old methodology, right? But we had a breakthrough. I had a breakthrough. I remember this quite vividly. I was on holiday, right? So I was in Greece, and I was like, oh, man, I've seen this wee article, a couple of online videos. I was like, that sounds interesting. And it was a guy talking about the awareness levels of your audience, right? And I think if you already know this or you don't, I think this is up your street, because I know you're into all this stuff. And I remember in Greece pushing the pram with the rain in it. I had my phone there and I was getting right into this. I was like, this is mad. And what it was talking about, right, is the vast majority of businesses will only tailor a message to people at the highest awareness level of their product, right? What I mean by that is this is people that know what you are, know what you do, and are ready to buy. Right? But there's actually 4 levels below that of different variances, and it starts from they don't know who you are, they don't know what you do, and they don't know they have a problem, all the way up to I know I've got a problem, I know who you are, and I'm ready to buy. Now, we changed our strategy in Facebook ads to cover all 5 levels of that,
right?
With different tailored messaging, different ads, different creatives. Since we've done that, our results have taken off.
Wow.
And what happens is someone might see your low awareness level ad one day, they might check out your website the next day.
The wee thoughts in there.
Then they start recognising you. They might see another couple of ads further down the line, and then when they're ready to buy, they're in. And
they might have been talking about solar, or they might have been talking about heat pumps, and they might be seeing an advert on TV, and all of a sudden they see your ad, and they're like, "No, I'm ready to buy."
They're in.
No, I'm ready to buy.
And out of any,
or at least I'm ready to have a conversation about buying.
Exactly. And it's quite standard, but any audience that you promote your business to, there's roughly, fluctuate a little bit, but there's roughly 3% of that audience that's ready to give you money. All right. So if you tailor 100% of your marketing to the 3% of the audience, you're missing out on a huge amount.
Absolutely.
So that again, that's kind of how we operate. That's our strategic way of going about marketing, and that took us years to get there, to be fair. It wasn't straight off the bat.
So what's next? Tell me what the big picture is for the business. What does that look like? So
it's funny you asked that, right? Because we've been making quite a lot of different moves recently. Spurred on for our podcast, funnily enough. So, my goal...
Go and stick there a minute, right? Stick at the podcast. So you must learn so much.
Oh, massive.
Because, your podcast is risking it all, right? I was on your podcast, and you are, a lot of people are sitting in that chair when you're interviewing them. They've put everything on the line, haven't they?
Oh, massively.
So you must have learned so many lessons for that. Is that fair enough? Right, go with that one.
Right.
Go there.
The podcast has been massive, James. So before the podcast happened, our goal with Jolly Media Marketing was to grow that business, by recruiting people in-house and growing the service, getting experts in and just grow, organic, right? Since we went in the podcast and we started speaking to people, we've just learned so much. We had people, experts in acquisitions, Jamie and Stephen, them as well.
I know that,
And what that done is it really opened our eyes up to different ways of going about business. So only recently, we've got Jolly Media Marketing. That's my baby, right? It's always going to be my baby. But our strategy moving forward is we are only going to deliver meta ads for renewables from that business. And we'll grow that as far as we can take it, right? And to grow beyond that, we are going to buy other marketing businesses into the group. So we've now got a group called the AIC Media Group. So in that group currently, we've got Jolly Media Marketing. We've got the Risk and All podcast. And, you might say I'm a bit fucking mental here, but only recently in the last 2 weeks, we've now founded a new business, the Commercial Solar Exchange. All right. And I talk about making quick decisions. We made that one quickly, but that's going to be a specialist commercial solar marketing business with a new business partner we've got. And the reason, again, we started thinking about acquisition, James, right? You're going to laugh at me here because it was on our trip to London. So, and in January this year, me and Brian, my business partner, Brian.
I know Brian,
we went to a conference in London run by a guy called Jonathan J, expert in buying businesses, hundreds of businesses he's bought pretty much. So we were like, right, I think acquisition could be a route forward. We'll go to this event. We went there for 2 days, signed up to his mastermind to learn all the ins and outs of it and get access to all the experts, and then decided, let's create a group, let's start buying businesses. And since that day, we've been holding 2 calls a day with business owners looking to exit their business. So we've lived.
Quite scary, but buying into. I've thought about it, by the way. I've thought about it because we're now in a position where our growth potential is absolutely massive, right? Our growth potential is. I mean, we're moving into India and all sorts, and I'm thinking, where am I going to get all the expertise? So I've actually been thinking, but I'm quite. Success and excuses here. I'm not going to make an excuse, but I'm quite. What would it look like? What would it feel like? I'm quite hesitant to go out there and say, I love what you do. I want to buy you because here's the big picture. I'm going to give you a platform to do your thing.
It is. It's there's a huge amount of imposter syndrome that goes in with it, right? Because I'm not a young guy anymore, but I'm not like a seasoned, entrepreneur in his 50s that's been through a lot. And
hey, I'm not even been in your 50s, by the way, just putting that out there.
Yeah, you look younger than me, mate, to be fair. So there is a bit of a, can I do this? But ultimately, me, I know I definitely, I'll not speak for Brian, but I definitely stood back a wee bit and thought, right, I am a good marketer, right? But I'm probably a better consultant. Right, and I've been in big businesses all my career, and I've helped them drive forward by being a consultant. Brian, on the other hand, he's worked in big FTSE 100 companies, manages teams of hundreds of people.
Got an entrepreneurial background in terms of his family and all that.
You know what I mean? So once you step away from it and you go, right, Jolly Media Marketing, I'll always be driving that forward. I've really focused in this last year of dumping everything at my brain and upskilling the team, and I'll continue to do that. But once you actually think about the other skill sets, you actually are primed to be in that group. And the knowledge we know about growing Jolly Media, you could parachute that into any other marketing agency.
Anything. Absolutely agree with you.
And you've got a really good thing going there. But that made us pursue it. We're still doing it. We're still making wee mistakes, and you've got to get it wrong to get it right, though. You've got to get it wrong to get it right. It's just how wrong do you get it before you get it right? It's always the worry. And I think the mastermind that we joined, James, has really gave us a bit of comfort because, I mean, don't get me wrong, it cost a few bob, right? I'll not tell you how much. It cost a few quid, but it's worth that.
Absolutely.
Because we are supported by people that have done hundreds of acquisitions. People that know exactly what to look out for. And that's invaluable, really.
Amazing. So that's a big picture, is it?
That's the big
building
plan.
the group and building it up. Listen, Barry, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. I am so glad that you decided to come along and repay the favour for me coming on yours. So listen, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, mate.
Before we wrap up, by the way, How do we get in hold of you? So obviously I put all these links on the podcast, but how does people get a hold of you if they're looking to sell their business to you, or they're looking for information?
If they're looking to, anything, looking to sell the business, looking to work with any of the businesses in the group, just get me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's my main channel. Getting a bit more active on it. I've been a bit lazy recently, but I'm getting a bit there.
I've noticed that.
Aye. So you can get me on there, and any individual businesses you'll find us online.
Super. Listen, I will make sure they're on the podcast. And thank you so much. As I said, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks, Barry.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Cheers,
Thanks,
mate.
everyone.